Welcome to Ren Behind the Practice. I'm Sophie Campisi. I'm a holistic business strategist, and I spend a lot of my time in conversation with practitioners, coaches, and healers about the behind the scenes of their businesses. What I started noticing is that some of the most honest, important conversations about building a practice were happening quietly, one-on-one, behind the scenes, and often in isolation. Most practitioners are incredibly skilled at the work they do with their clients, but very few of us were ever taught or trained in how to build a successful startup business. And suddenly we've been left to figure it out on our own. This podcast exists to bring those conversations forward. The dreams, the uncertainty, the highs and lows, the recalibrations, and the messy middle. My hope is that by normalizing these conversations, we can soften the stigma, feel less alone, and start closing the gaps together. Today's guest is Mor Yelvington. Mor has 20 years of experience helping women turn pain into power. Mor, it's great to have you here. Thank you so much for showing up and having this conversation with me.
Thank you for having me and for having these conversations. I think it's so valuable.
Before we look behind the scenes today, can you share with us a little bit more about the work you do?
I would love to. Well, I'm a mom of three. Like you said, 20 years experience helping women feel safe and seen in their body. I really help women come back to their body and clear trauma and PTSD, anxiety, depression, low libido, and pain so they can feel safe in their body again.
Do you typically work with people one-on-one?
I do. I do one-on-one work and I do group healing sessions. A lot of my magic is really almost like the more people in the room, the more the activation activates because it's almost like we're all connected and activating each other. And I notice a lot of times that a lot of people that come to me tend to have the same issues that they're dealing with. And so when I dive in and open that energy, it touches everybody and changes for everybody.
So do you do most of your stuff in person?
Actually not. I do most of my stuff online and over the phone with people. And a lot of people ask me, how is it possible? Because they know a lot about like Reiki and things that like touch the body. But energy is universal. It's everywhere and it's all around us. And just like you can listen to this conversation and feel it in your body, that's how energy healing works. And so when I work with somebody one-on-one, a lot of times I feel like when they're in their own environment and they have me in their headphones, they can disconnect and really tap into their body so much more in their own environment versus in clinic, which they have. But in the clinic, it's a different setting. It's not as, I feel a lot of times like people don't really allow themselves to really relax in a foreign setting versus in their own home.
Totally. This has come up with a lot of people that I've talked to some who, of course, COVID was a big shift for pushing them online. Some who have thought, I could never work virtually, and then now are completely virtual and have had realizations like you're talking about, which is like, actually the work seems to work better and it works for me better and it works for them better, especially for women. We feel so at home usually in our own spaces. So get us in a car and having to drive and like all of a sudden like we're less safe, and our nervous systems, whether we consciously realize it or not, our nervous systems are more on alert of like danger and different things. And then being in an office, we're still probably subtly thinking about all those things. Okay, we have to get back to home. We have to do all of this. And it's really amazing what the shift to virtual has brought for us. And a lot of practitioners say, yeah, and I don't have to travel. It saves me time. Cancellations aren't as big of a deal. It doesn't affect me so much logistically. So not only does the work better, but also works for us a lot too.
Yeah. And I did notice too that it actually, like you said, it can bring more people into one room, which could be a really big thing. And it also helps a lot with communicating and opening up to a lot more people to find you and to be able to help a lot more people.
For sure. Do you find that the work you do takes some vulnerability that you see that when people might be at home and connecting from a safer space, they're more able to relax into that?
100%. When you're in your own environment and, you don't have to wear your bra and you don't have to put your makeup on and you can just be yourself. I feel like that makes all the difference. You don't have to show up on camera. You can be just voice. Sometimes some of my clients, I just talk and then I'm like, okay, I'm going to do the energy, and you just lay there and receive, and they don't even have to leave their bed. So it just really depends on the person I'm working with.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, it's so huge. The clients that you have now, that you've had in the past, that you have now, how have you generally connected with them? How have you found them, connected with them? Like, where do you nurture your community typically?
So a lot of my community is word to mouth. Most of my clients now work with me and they're really happy and they tell their friends, they tell a lot of my clients, they're like, people just ask me, what am I doing different? Why do I look differently? Because I see this work is so powerful and you can really see somebody come to me and they're kind of grayish. And even by the end of the session, they'll cheeks will be rosy and their complexion is different. Like it's amazing how much just shifting the burden releases even from our skin. Like it could be so immediate. And so a lot of it is really word to mouth. I do podcasts like these that open. I do a lot of summits. I'm in different groups. It's definitely been an interesting journey during COVID to go from my practice to the online space. They really did not have that online space prior to COVID. And that's definitely been an interesting journey in my own growth, right? I had to really work on myself to be open, to go on like different lives and platforms and new reels and, be confident, working on all the things. So it was almost like another growing step for me into this and also on my own podcast. So there's all these different avenues where people find me.
Yeah, it's really two separate playing fields, the in person versus online when it comes to all the things that you just said. And it's maybe it's talked about, but I don't think it's talked about enough. And some people like you know, that I've talked to were primarily or only in person and then shifting online and then like, yeah, but now it's so I'm dealing with this and this and this. I couldn't have thought it. I couldn't have expected it. And it's like, yeah, it's totally different. So like, you're not doing anything wrong. It's not you. It's just like it's a totally different playing field.
It really is. And it's all these different set of rules. And I also feel like it's so changing so quickly. Like even, when I went online 2019, 2020 probably, and to now, right? Like even that short window feels like six years. I guess it's not that short, but in 6 years, everything's changed, right? Before I could just go live, for example, on Facebook, and there's all this outreach. Now it's almost if I don't pay for ads, which I don't, there is zero outreach, right? So I definitely noticed the difference in a lot of things, but also with AI coming into the field, a lot more things are easier. There's a lot more, way to communicate with AI in different ways to help me really grow my business. So there's just these little movements and shifts that we're just going to have to ride those waves and see what works for us. So
Totally. And consumer behavior. One of the big things that has made those 6 years so different is consumer behavior has changed so much from that, especially if we're just going to talk about that like COVID shift to online to now, especially for our industry. People were home, they were engaging with things, they were taking courses, they were doing all the things. And there was a big spike of stuff. But consumer behavior since then has changed so drastically. And it affects how we build trust with people online. It affects how we go about building our businesses and navigating that. Because at the end of the day, as you know, it's all about building trust, and consumers need that trust built differently than they did 10 years ago, for sure, even 6 years ago, where a classic air quotes funnel worked. Now people don't want to feel locked into anything. Like now they're like, where that old classic way of doing things, even 6 years ago, did work, it does not work anymore, especially for the type of people that are going to be our ideal clients, right? Like more conscious, more awake, more sensitive, energetic people. They feel like they are getting locked into something and forced to move in one direction. They're automatically going to be like, nope, sorry, that doesn't feel trustworthy. They need a lot more space. They need things to be more like a playground. They need to have the freedom to go assess our personalities and like, can they trust us and all these things. without going deeper into that, and it changes how we, especially as solopreneurs, need to approach building our business because there's so many hats to wear. When you look ahead to the next 6 to 12 months, what goals do you have for your work and for your business?
I love this question. So I'm always in creation mode and I'm working on a bunch of different things. I have a free class coming up about freeing your mind in May. And I have a workshop that's like an 8-week workshop that I'm doing with another healer friend starting July. So we're working on that. And then we're going to have a 2-day in-person class in September. So I'm looking forward to, all of those filling up and all the people that are meant to be there and for the transformation that they're going to experience.
What do you feel like you need to do to not just launch those things, but get them filled and get people to engage with that stuff? Do you feel like you know what you need to do, or do you feel like you're guessing?
I feel like, to be honest, I feel like with the work that we do, it's so intuitive. And there is all the things we need to do, right? We need to do, I guess, according to who, right? According to the internet or whatever. It's like you have to be consistent. You have to do your reels. You have to do your podcasts. You have to do your posts and your stories. You have to do all the things. But I also know that when you do the things not from the aligned place, it doesn't work. And so what I learned really is I do the things that I do, but with the way that I work, a lot of times I get these spurts of like downloads and information that comes through. And so when that happens, I just know I need to put that out into the world. And that becomes content that then my assistant turns into reels. She turns into, podcast episodes. She turns into content written. So it allows me to really kind of be intuitive with my stuff. It's not consistent. Like I won't say, come to my site and every Monday I'm going live. Like I used to do that, but I realized that doesn't work for me because maybe it's the way I'm supposed to do it, but it doesn't feel right when I don't have the download to share with somebody. So I think I just learned to really do the work in a way that really works with my magic, with my intuition, and feels aligned to me, and still be pretty consistent online in order to show up. With that, with doing all the quote unquote right things, I do want to add that what I'm noticing more and more, because I have never paid for any kind of advertising, and I'm actually playing with this idea to see if maybe we want to advertise and pay for some ad campaigns and see if that makes any kind of a difference. I'm just kind of curious about that.
What feels hardest about either those specific things or about just in general? Usually for us, it's the actual content and the programs that we build aren't the hard part. It is filling the seats. So
Right.
if it's those specific things that you shared about, or just in general, what feels hardest or most uncertain or unclear about filling up a new program launch?
Yeah, like you said, it's always where the people going to come from. Are the right people going to find me? Are they going to jive with what I do and the energy? But I also believe that it's a lot about how you purchase, if that makes sense, right? And when I see people like in my DMs trying to sell me, I immediately shut down. When I go online and I immediately see it's like an ad that was paid for me to watch, I probably won't watch it just because I know it doesn't feel real. But when somebody shows up on my feed and it's like, oh, that's magnetic to me. And that's, if there's something about their message, something about their energy, I'm in, right? And then if they're offering something that is something that I feel like I need or they can help me with, I want to know more. I want to explore more. So I feel like with this, because we're so bombarded with so much information everywhere, like I notice now even on Facebook, like I barely watch reels, but on like the Facebook reels, there's a little ad now, like on the bottom. Like, what is happening? Like, this is so, it feels so bombarding that I just shut down. So I always ask myself, like, how do we reach the people that really need this work? I know that so many women need the work that I do. How do I really reach them? How do I not shut them down? And how can I serve them in the best possible way? And so when I do my content, that's the place I'm coming from. And hopefully they show up.
Is that your main your main way of maybe the question I'm curious about, is there a specific platform that you tend to use or that you find like creates that more flowy or authentic sense of trust or connection with the people that you want to connect with?
I am on all the platforms. Okay. Like you can find me everywhere. My podcast's everywhere. I'm on everything. I have a website. I don't know. I think it's more and more, the more I feel confident in myself, the more I trust my intuition, the more I show up magnetic, the more magnetic I am. I guess that's the best. If I'm doing something that doesn't feel authentic, like, I was like, in the beginning, I was like, okay, ChatGPT, help me, right? And create some reels for me that I can do. And I was recording them and I'm like, I can't do this. This doesn't feel like me. Like, I'm not hiring an AI to do it for me, but still, even me doing it, I was like, this just doesn't feel authentic to me. Like, how do I make it sound like me? Like getting the vibe, getting the idea, but then how do I bring myself to the table with that? It's interesting.
Do you find that you prefer any of the platforms more than others?
For some reason, I really love Instagram, but I have the least following and the least engagement in Instagram. But I don't know why I love the vibe on Instagram. It's really funny. I love the layout of Instagram. It's fun for me to be on Instagram. I don't feel like it's not as heavy. But on Facebook, people read. They like to read posts. They like to respond to posts. So it's such an interesting thing. And then on TikTok, I feel like I get a lot more exposure, but not necessarily to the right people. So I feel like on TikTok, you can get a lot of people that you're not interested in being. They're obviously not your clients. They're just there. So it's interesting.
It is so interesting. And I think, part of what you're bringing up is something that's so important in all of this, which is first and foremost, you have to know exactly who your target client is. Because if you don't know, then it makes even what we're talking about almost impossible because you have to understand who it is to know these types of things of like exactly all the things that you're saying. The only reason you can say that and at least have those distinctions is because you know who your client is. You know exactly who it is. And yeah, different platforms have different personalities and different vibes and different energies. I've talked to people who say, like, my alter ego goes on TikTok. On Instagram, I'm this person, but like my alter ego goes on TikTok because I'm like, it's just a different version of me. And like, I don't think there's a right or wrong, but I think, the point that you're making is what is most important to understand about it of it just is different. So what works. So if you can show up in a way that works for you on a certain platform and connect with your people on that platform, like that's really all that matters. But it's understanding that, yeah, different platforms, you could be putting the same content out across 5 different platforms and the result it's going to produce are going to be vastly different. I also think that it's going to be really interesting. This came up recently with someone that I had an interview with on this podcast about consumer behavior as a result of AI, but also just as a result of, like you said, like the bombardment of ads. And it'll be interesting to see where and how people go over the next 2, 3 years, because, of course, all these AI bots, kind of like fake people now, some people are like, even me, I'm like, I'm less interested in Instagram now as a consumer because I'm like, is this a real person? Is it not? Even like Pinterest for me as a personal user, when I'm trying to, maintain more of like my mental health and still have downtime on my phone. It's like I use the the Brick device to like lock my Instagram or my social media. But like, I'm a mom, I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, and sometimes I do just want to scroll. So I'll go to Pinterest just to kind of get that soothing without feeling like grenades thrown at me from social media. But Pinterest has even changed because now it's like every ad is an Amazon ad. So it's like everything, like every other thing is like an Amazon thing. And so it's like the quality of the products and all that has gone down. So even my habits on Pinterest have changed so much because like what I'm getting fed is so different. And so I'm not even going on there as much. It's just, I think a lot is going to change, of course, like we know this, but like all these things that you're talking about. And I think it's just like, it'd be really interesting couple of years.
Yeah, I agree. And it's the same, my daughter, she's 12 now and we're dabbling with the phone, and it's been an interesting. She obviously has no social media, but she does have Pinterest because she loves organizing. And but I was like, and she has like 10 minutes a day on that. And I was looking behind her shoulder and I'm like, are you on TikTok? Because you don't even have TikTok on your phone. She's like, no, this is Pinterest. I'm like, okay, if this is what Pinterest is now, then you can't be on Pinterest because this is not the Pinterest I used to go on. And this is not the Pinterest I used to use. So even that, I'm like, no, you're being sold, you're 12, you're being sold products for 40-year-olds. What's happening right now? Like that, it's so messed up. And also, I feel like because of that AI, exactly like what you said, right? You're watching a video and you're like, I love this. And I'm like, oh, it's a robot. It's not even a real person. And I feel like people are definitely going to levitate towards real people because they're going to want to know what's real, but there's going to be a lot more questioning, a lot more, what am I getting from what I'm spending? Like, I feel like during COVID, you're right, people are just investing without thinking, like, should I invest this? What is the outcome? Am I being sold? It happened to me too, right? When I just started, I hired coaches, I hired all these things, spend hundreds of dollars on that kind of stuff. And I don't believe there's like a wrong investment. I think you learn from everything. But I think now we're a lot more subjective and we're a lot more hesitate with our money, where we're going to put it in terms of what is the outcome that we want to have. And so I think we're definitely going to be a lot more into what's real versus what's not real.
For sure. I think in the long, not like the long, long run, but I think like as the next couple of years shake out online, when people are desperate for the real humans, the authenticity, people who are walking the walk, I think it's all going to play into our favor, like those of us who are doing what we do, because I think the past, of course, the COVID times was crazy. Everyone was doing everything. And then the past few years has really catered to, yeah, more of like TikTok personalities and people who are really good at those blips, like whatever that is that had people, the algorithms or the platforms really cater to those people. And it's not to say that by any means that they're doing anything wrong, but sometimes, and I talked to someone about this recently, it's like, wow, like not that they're not good at what they do, but it's more, you know what I mean? Maybe more surface level. Like that's just kind of worked.
Yeah,
It's gonna
I
stop
talked about
working.
this. I was talking to this with a colleague, and she's like, I've been doing healing work for 10 years, and somebody can go right now on ChatGPT and have ChatGPT assess their mental state, tell them what their beliefs are, and it feels very surface level because as much as ChatGPT can maybe give you the awarenesses that you're looking for, the inner work still needs to be done, the healing still needs to be done, and that's not something that an affirmation is going to solve for you. And so I feel like with the whole we're trying to get a solution really quick without doing the actual inner work. And so it's almost like really confusing people because they're like, oh, I'm doing my affirmations. Oh, I'm manifesting. I'm like, that's great. But are you actually doing the work? Because if your nervous system feels really shaken when you just think about money, then when you say money comes to me always, your nervous system is shutting down. It's a surface level. It's not a real transformation.
Totally. It's gonna all, there's, I've mentioned this on this podcast before. There's a neuroscientist and other people who have predictions, like market predictions and market trend predictions over the next 5, 10, 20 years, specifically as a result of AI. And one of the predicted trends is that human to human service providers are going to start thriving. Like that is going to be one of the areas that really grows, which of course, obviously is counterintuitive at first. AI, it's going to automate everything and we don't need, but actually people who are experts in this area, because they're experts, they were already talking about it. At first, when I heard these things a year ago or whatever, I was like, how would that be so? But I think everything we're talking about is starting to show us that people are going to swing back really hard into craving that like deep person to person connection is of the overwhelm. And that even happens to me on using ChatGPT with work and doing certain things. It's too much. So sometimes I just am like, okay, I'm just going to stop because now it's like it's too deep. It's too much. Like, it's just, I'm overwhelmed, I'm overloaded, I'm getting waterboarded with way too many details. I don't need all of that. I can't even hardly take that in. I can't consume it. Even if I could make sense of it, it's like actually way more than I even want to know about this. And I think it's just going to happen. So I think, everything that we're saying, I think we're starting to see that. And I think we're all in really great position. It might take a couple years for it all to kind of start getting sorted out. But I think the next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years is going to be a really great time for those of us who have done the real work. We are, walking the walk. We're like the real deal, if you will, when it comes to this type of work. I think it's going to really be a good time for us.
Yeah, and I remember reading that like the personal growth and personal development and the coaching industry is like assessed at like billions and billions of dollars. So I think people are definitely more investing in themselves, more realizing that, personal growth is the holy grail of who we came here to be and what we came here to do, really awakening from the inside and bringing down this light into the world, which is how I see it. A lot of people talk about like this war of like dark and light. And I truly believe that war is just us being awakened to our potential, to what we're capable, to what we're here to do. And I feel like when you are awakened, the only next level is to awaken others. So I feel like that's really our purpose here.
Totally. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. If you had a magic wand and you could have one thing solved or fixed for you when it comes to the building process, the business side of your work, what would that be?
I would like the bridge between me and my clients to just be open, for there not to be all these hurdles. I would like for the people that are meant to work with me to find me in the easiest way and to be able to receive the magic, the gift that I'm here to give to them. Because I truly believe that we all have that tribe, those people, those women, to me, these women that are meant to work with me. And I just want that bridge to be completely open because a lot of times, like I said, even though we're putting it out on social media, I think because of that, there is still all these hurdles, like all the stuff we talked about. And so if it was just a clear, yes, you're my person that is supposed to lead me to this other side, right? That would be the easiest way. And that's how I wish it to be. That's what it feels like when it comes from another person, right? I get a phone call. Hey, Nicole recommended you. We're talking, we click. Yes, I want to work with you. It's like the easiest, most connected way. And I know it can be like that online too. So that's my goal. That's my wish.
One last question before we wrap up. If you're not able to get your work to where you want to or where you know is possible for it to go, what's the cost? What's the cost to you, to others, to the world?
Well, my mission is really, really big. My mission is to end sexual trauma on this planet. My mission is to help women that experience sexual trauma reconnect to their bodies and really be in their diamond status. I call this like when you're all connected, mind, body, soul, and source. And so I know it's a big mission and I know that's what I'm here for. And I don't believe I'm the only one that is doing this work. But if I don't, I guess the more women I get to do this work with, the faster, the quicker this goal will happen. So the longer it takes, the longer it happens for all of us because we are so connected. And so I really dream of a world where women don't have to be afraid to be in their power. They don't have to be afraid to walk down the street. They don't have to be afraid to be connected to their body. They don't have to be afraid to talk about sex or their sexuality, or they don't have to be overexploited or underexploited, right? Where you could actually just be you and you don't have to worry about anything else.
Mor, thank you so much for joining me today to have this conversation. And for those of you who are listening, if any part of this resonated, you're in the right place, please reach out. I want to hear from you. And if you want to reach Mor directly, the link to her website is in the show notes. Thank you again, Mor. And to everyone else, thank you for listening. And we'll see you for the next episode of Ren Behind the Practice.